Ladies and gentlemen, faithful listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. With us this week, we're joined by Mr. Mike Miller of the Creekside Wildlife, the Creekside podcast, and Mike Miller Outdoors page. Mike is a local guy to me, and I've been after him for a while to come through on the show. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the conversation that comes from this episode. I think that there's going to be some collaboration going on moving forward between me and Mike on a couple things, so look out for that coming ahead. We talk a little bit about the start of the Creekside Wildlife that he has going on, love, hate, and relationship with filming, and a trail camera ban, and a hunting reset, as well as some state changes we'd like to see within our beautiful lands here in Pennsylvania. If you guys have any questions for Mike, feel free to reach out to him, guys. He's super knowledgeable, one hell of a turkey killer if I've ever seen one. And he really knows some land plot stuff. So if you have questions about doing some agricultural things, he can definitely help you out with that. As well as, me and him are getting pretty excited moving into deer season here, and you can tell it in this conversation. He also has a photography business. So if you guys need any wedding needs for photography or maybe some other stuff, maybe some baby pictures or family pictures, get a hold of him, guys. Give him a chance to do business with you. I'm sure he'll greatly appreciate it. And I think he does a little bit of apparel stuff on the side. So I hope you guys really enjoy this episode as much as him and I did. Thank you, guys. God bless. We'll see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. Guys, this week I'm joined by Mike Miller, and I've been bothering him here for probably like a month. And turkey season came, and he was on a milk carton. Nobody could find him anywhere. So I finally got the time to sit down with him here, and it's been a long time coming. But Mike, how are you, brother?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm great. And we were chopping it up before we come on, and I said right before we come on, man, I'm gonna lose my voice in this one. I swear to God, I know I am.
Yeah, I said you better hit record. We're talking about a lot of stuff that
I know, man.
maybe
And
people want to hear. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
Oh no, they do. Trust me, they do. But what's funny is I swear to God, every time, like before we get on the podcast, I always chop it up too much, and I get to talking, and I need to pull a card out of some other guy's books on the podcast thing where they just click record and then they start recording like a lot of shit before their conversation. But
Yeah,
you never know. Who knows? We might hurt somebody's feelings if we do that. But
yeah. I'm not worried about that.
but Mike, I want you to introduce yourself, brother. Who are you? And let me know like what projects and stuff you got going on in the brand that you have, and then we'll chop it up into some other stuff.
Yeah. Mike Miller, like you said. I guess my company would be Creekside Wildlife. We started a podcast and a YouTube channel this year. Very fresh and rookie to the whole YouTube and podcast world. But we kind of just decided, all my friends and family just tell me it was the perfect thing for me because I just like to talk a lot. So,
Well, welcome to my world too.
Yeah. So it seemed pretty easy. Good friends of mine from the Harrisburg area started a podcast about 8 seasons ago, Rutten River Pursuits. So I've been helping them out kind of behind the scenes and been on their show a time or two. And them being a couple hours away, I was never really able to be a sole member of their podcast. So,
Yep.
Will is the friend that's kind of behind the scenes or, the star of the podcast down there, I guess. The other guys will probably get mad at me for saying that, but him and I are good friends. We hunt together, and him and I always talked about me starting my own podcast, and we finally pulled the trigger. I actually had the equipment for over a year before I actually recorded the first episode. I kept telling him, I was like, I got all the content. I know how to run the stuff. I know who I want to be on like the first 20 episodes, but I just needed a name.
Right.
It was the worst thing. Like it took me forever to come up with a name. And finally we literally just came up with Creekside because my parents live along Clover Creek, which is a whole debate you can listen to in our first episode, the Crick versus Creek debate. But So we came up with Creekside Wildlife, and I didn't want it to be like, you know, Mike Miller's hunting or Mike
Right.
Miller's fishing, or
Yeah.
because literally me and the guys in the group, we are always doing something outdoor related, whether it's hunting, fishing, trapping. We're getting ready to start rattlesnake hunting here next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Literally anything you can do outside. So, seemed like the name fit pretty well, but so we're s- slowly getting started with the YouTube stuff and, just getting everybody kind of meshed together as a group and working on camera stuff, camera gear. We have a few new guys to the camera world that um, are stone cold killers, but haven't ran cameras. So we're trying to get them in, meshed together with us. But it was fun. We had a heck of a turkey season between the group. Me, not so much, but you said at the beginning about me being on a milk carton. Well, the turkey I was chasing was on a milk carton too. I had one heck of a season, but now that it's all over, looking back, it was a pretty cool season, overall.
Yeah.
I ended up finally getting my bird after 15 days or so of hunting. My girlfriend Allison and my dad got the double up on longbeards on opening day. I got that on film. I was part of a couple other hunts. One of my good friends, Trent, called in a longbeard for him. And I think that was about it for my experiences this year. But we had, as a group, Creekside, don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like 32 or something
Nice.
turkey kills as a
Dang,
group. Now
that's a
now we
lot.
have like 8 or 10 guys, but um I think we got 20 of them on film. So next year we'll be slowly releasing those
Yeah.
come December, January. But yeah, we got a lot of big plans. So
Yeah. Now I mean, you guys are on it, man. If you're killing that many birds, I know this year, at least for me, I wasn't able to do a lot of turkey hunting. I probably maybe could have made more time, but as you know, my wife and I welcomed a little girl, and I just been team no sleep, and I've been trying to fish just that way I can kind of run right back home if
yeah.
if it's too much for her and our other little girl at the same time. It's like having a hurricane and a tornado at the same time. But I'm getting used to it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. But I do want to talk about your bird, man. I want to jump right into it and let us in on your season here. Let me know about this all elusive bird that you were chasing and this thunder chicken that we all love so much.
Yeah. Um, well, we can start with opening day. Last year, my dad had basically the season that I did this year. He is obviously one of the biggest reasons I got into hunting so much. For the last 15 years, probably, he's been basically tagged out in the first week. His work schedule allows him to hunt a lot during the spring, so um, he's just always had a really good time getting tagged out pretty quickly. Well, last year was not at all that way. So, without going into too much detail of that whole season, I decided, opening day, him and Allison are on the gun first. I didn't even take a gun, and I took the camera. Um, and those two were able to tag out Allison's first long beard, which was cool. Um, Last year was her first year hunting anything,
Damn.
and so she got to shoot a Jake the first day, and um, on her own accord, I guess she said, I want to shoot a long beard. I don't want to shoot a Jake this year. So I said, okay, cool. Like, we'll wait till you get a shot at a long beard, and we just happened to make it happen on opening day. But so then basically from the second day on, I basically got my butt kicked by every turkey I came in contact with. Now this not a lot of people know this because we didn't release this video yet, but I missed one with my bow on Monday, the Monday of turkey season. Probably some of the best turkey footage I've ever had. We called these three longbeards in the whole way across a 250-yard open cut cornfield, and they came right into 25 yards. And I said at the beginning of the year, I said, if I'm going to be in a ground blind, I want to do it with my bow. I shot one with a bow last year, so, it wasn't new to me. But of course, these birds came in and they got a little goofy from the decoys and they kind of hung up at like 25 yards and I just missed. Easily could have been a double with the shotguns, but and of course, we captured it all on film. We had three angles at the decoys, two cameras in the blind, just everything you could ask for except for connecting on the shot. But
Mm-hmm.
so it's my own fault that I didn't fill both tags, but it is what it is. It was a cool hunt. But so then I guess from Tuesday on, Tuesday, I'm not sure of the date, but whatever the first Tuesday was until it was 13 days in a row, I hunted the same area, which um, we determined had two different birds in it, but it was just some public land behind my dad's house, and we had some cameras in there, just birds showing up here and there, and it was just one thing after another. Like we would go here, they would go there. They were gobbling every day. I was talking to other people that were hearing birds that were just gobbling like once or twice and shutting up, but
Mm-hmm.
these birds, I know the one day had to gobble 300 times. It was from 5:30 in the morning till quarter till 10.
Damn.
It was just nonstop gobbling, but they
Now,
just they
were
didn't
they
want to
were
go
they
ahead.
were they moving, or were they just? Because I know, like, I've I've been around them even when they're not even henned up, and for whatever reason, it's like they just kind of congregate in like a feeding area, and
Yeah.
they'll just pound it, pound it, pound.
Yeah, and that's what I think was going on here and like, without seeing them, you're trying to figure out what you think's going on and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Um, but he just strutted back and forth all these days, and it was one of them deals where, you know, every time we would move on them, they would move somewhere else.
I got
And
you.
and I'm talking a 400-yard circle for 13 days that I stayed in, and it didn't matter where I went. He was always like one step ahead of me. And one of our cell cams was on a bench up in the mountain where it got pretty steep, and they were roosting not too far from this, but um, the the final straw, I guess, was talking with all the guys in our Creekside group chat. I said, I don't know what else to do, guys. Like I'm running out of options here, and I said they're always on this one camera, at some point. So I just decided I'm gonna go in there and just set up and sit and hunt them like a whitetail. I mean, it's obviously not the most glorious,
Right.
not the greatest footage, but at that point, that bird was under my skin. My dad's telling me go somewhere else, like try something different here, and I was like, I can't picture going somewhere else when I know that thing's gonna gobble there tomorrow morning. So
You were just obsessed.
yeah, and I've never got like that with a turkey before, but it just got under my skin, and every night I would tell Allison like, "Well, I'm gonna go behind Dad's again. I don't know why you're doing that. You need to go somewhere else." But finally that night, we went up and we roosted him. He gobbled in the tree that night, um, and I knew right where he was gonna be, so I got up in there super early and I just planned on sitting there and just kind of playing it like, like I said, like a whitetail. And
Yep.
I didn't put out a decoy. I think I had a mouth call with me, but I don't think I ever made a single call. And, you know, even knowing everything I knew, he still almost managed to slip away from me. Um, all the times that I hunted him, he was walking down the edge of this pipeline and cutting in into the woods and coming up onto this bench. And I thought I had him figured out after, 13 days. You have a little bit of an idea what's going on, but um, he gobbled probably 30 times in the tree, and it was really windy that morning. And so I'm facing down the mountain, and he's probably like straight behind me, but over a little bit, like 4 or 5 o'clock behind me or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm facing away from him, thinking that he's going to do what he normally did and walk, down the pipeline and cut in and be right in front of me. And I just planned on sitting there. I found a pretty big oak tree that was about, 4 foot in diameter. Couldn't even get your arms around it. And I thought, I got good cover here. I'm just going to sit here and basically motionless until I can't take it anymore.
Right.
And so he flew down. Like I said, he was roosted about 100 yards from me. Flew down and didn't make another peep. And it was windy, and where we're at on the mountain, the sun doesn't hit where we were at, till 9, 10 o'clock. So it was about half chilly that morning.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get restless and whatever. And, my dad texts me at like 8:40 and says, what's going on up there? And I said, not a dang thing. I said, it's like there's not a turkey on this whole mountain anymore. And had to be 5-10 minutes after that, I heard the tail end of one gobble in between the gusts of wind. And it was just like, meant to be type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am terrible hearing. So anyone that's ever hunted with me knows that my hearing's terrible. So when I hear a gobble in the wind, I know he's close. So I'm sitting there. I still got my gun on my lap, facing, directly away from where the turkey was. And when he gobbled, he had to be, I don't know, 85, 90 yards away. And he was close enough that I knew if I moved around the backside of the tree, he could possibly spot me. So I was like, all right, I can't move. And so I'm just doing one of these numbers where I got my head turned around, looking towards him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but I was looking, I had my neck strained to the point where like my eyes were starting to get a little blurry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, if this turkey actually shows up, I'm going to be like cross-eyed and lightheaded and not be able to shoot him anyhow. So I was like kind of trying to like rest my neck and whatever. And about 40 yards in the direction he was at, there's another big oak tree. And one of the times I kind of glanced back over my shoulder, he just took a step out right from behind that giant tree. So he had come directly on a string towards me, right in line with this big oak tree.
And you didn't see him till the last second.
No.
Mm-hmm.
He stepped out and was right there
Mm-hmm.
at 40 yards and just stood motionless. And I was like, what in the world am I going to do here? Like, 13 days of this turkey, and he's going to get away again because my gun is facing directly 180 degrees away from this turkey right now. And pretty soon I hear a hen yelping below me. And I thought, all right, perfect. This hen's going to come up and at least take the attention off of, this bird looking my direction. So he gets over and I'm sorry, the hen gets up almost to me. And doesn't the hen go right to the gobbler? And they start working almost like the hen was working away from me, like he was going to take her right out of my life again for the 14th time. So I finally said, I got to make something happen here. And he took one or two steps towards the hen. And I never did this on a turkey before, but I will say, so nobody gets fired up about it, I do practice shooting left-handed. I've done it waterfowl hunting plenty of times, and I shoot a red dot, so it's a lot easier to make an odd shot. But
Right.
I ended up spinning around, and I had to shoot him left-handed. But so I made a good shot. He went right down, and it was like a sigh of relief at that point. But
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of bittersweet because I was by myself. I know a lot of guys like to turkey hunt by themselves, but I don't know. I'm kind of a social person, so every time I hunted 12 days in a row with Allison and my dad, and the one day nobody came with me, I killed the bird. So I've been telling them that it was their fault that I couldn't get them. But regardless, it was one of those cool moments. Certainly like a hunt where you have a lot of build up, but I'd prefer to not have 13 days of build up. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, those ones always mean more, though.
yeah.
I've heard guys tell, and especially on the show here, Even like good examples. Aaron Pascaret was on here, and he said the buck that he shot the first day, or like the first time that they went out,
Yeah.
and he was like, "It's great," but it was like, "Damn," and I'm like, "Yeah, like that's because you work so hard,
Yeah.
like most of the time and most of the seasons that when it happens that fast, it's kind of like, okay, now what?"
Yeah.
And like you don't even realize it hasn't set in that like you're done. The
Yeah.
season's done. I mean, with turkey, if you buy two tags or whatever, then you
Yeah.
got two tags. But I always tell people, hey, open the door and leave the state.
Oh
I
yeah.
love this state and I promote this state as much as I do, but
Yep.
I also leave this state and hunt in other states, and there's
Yeah.
lots of opportunity out there. But
Yeah.
you shooting that bird and putting in that many days in a row hunting, yeah, that one it feels good.
Oh yeah.
It's
For
like
sure.
yeah, like you said, it's a large sigh of relief, but at the same time, it's like, damn, I really freaking earned this one, didn't I?
Yeah. I told everybody. I said, because it was 13 days of hunting, but it was also 13 days of me, you know, bitching and moaning to everybody about how this turkey's been kicking my butt. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you would have swore it was gonna have like inch and a half hooks and like 12-inch beard and weigh 30 pounds when I finally put my hands on it. But it was, it's just your typical, 2-year-old 9.5-inch beard. But I mean, I was as proud as could be about it. Um, but I did end up going to Michigan afterwards, and I had one of those, short, quick, easy hunts. But it was definitely nice to have one of those too after the season that I've been having.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, I am not the traveling turkey hunter of any kind, but I will tell you that if you are getting it done in Pennsylvania, your odds of getting it done in another state are very high.
Oh yeah, I'll argue that with anybody in the country. I
Yep.
mean, I
Yep.
I've been lucky in my filming career to hunt turkeys in a lot of different states. I followed Jerry from the Bearded Buck around for a couple years, and
Mm-hmm.
and we hunted in a ton of different places, and that's basically every place I've ever hunted was the same outcome. We always said, if you can get it done back home, then you at least have a really good start for about any state out there.
Yep, I would argue that too, and I
Yeah.
and I do argue that even with whitetail hunting. Now, obviously, there are different scenarios. Like me and a friend of mine were just talking about hunting Oklahoma, and like there's no trees. Like
No.
so, like that's a whole different ball game. But at
Oh
the
yeah.
same time, if you're getting it done up here, then you can probably read deer and understand deer, and you speak deer, so you will
Oh yeah.
find a way to probably make it happen.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
Pennsylvania is a bunch of freaking hillbillies that love putting on miles too. We climb up and down these
Yeah.
mountains, pushing bear and deer all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So we don't mind putting the miles on up here either. So
Yeah.
that sets us apart for a lot of things too. Because you get out west, a lot of guys are hunting from pickup trucks, not out of them, right?
Yeah.
But they are scoping everything out, and then they're going to get so close in the truck
Yeah.
or whatever, and then make a stalk.
Yep.
Whereas a PA boy probably just run around out there without a truck
Oh
or a
yeah.
quad or anything, and they're like, "Hey, buddy, get in the truck, you dumb bastard! We're
Yeah,
gonna go up over
exactly.
this hill." But there you are, they're PA guys putting on 16 miles up and down the hills. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, we started out our season in Virginia this year, and man, those are some big mountains down there.
yeah, they
I
got them
used to
too.
think we had mountains, but not around here compared to what we were hunting down there.
Yep,
So,
yep, yeah. They definitely they got some mountains too. And I tell you, where we would hunt in Indiana, the state of Indiana, believe it or not. So I'd probably give away a little bit, but uh, the bluffs. I mean, they're not mountains, right? But they're
yeah.
they're bluffs, and they're like straight up and down, hogbacks, and there's it's just a different ball game, man.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I would rather just pack a deer up over a mountain than I would to drag it or pack it up and down those bluffs because they're just like
Yeah.
you just fall down them, and
Yeah.
it's super hard, but
Yeah. It's nice to get to different places and
it is.
see some different terrain and stuff, and you know,
Yeah.
I haven't got to make it out to the Merriam's country, but that's on the itinerary for next year. But
Nice.
Tyler and Tanner, guys from Creekside in the group, they were out in Oregon this year and Idaho, I believe. You'll just have to get them on the podcast. They have more than enough content from their stories today and or from their stories this year
Right.
that they could
Yeah.
fill up
We'll
a
let
couple
them spill
episodes. But
spill the beans there.
yeah, but the pictures they were sending me was crazy and the style of hunting and everything just being so different out there and I can't wait to get
I've
out
seen
there.
guys kill them birds in the snow.
Oh yeah.
Lots of footage in the snow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a different world out there.
Yeah. Not saying you can't do it here, because I remember a couple seasons out here, with snow flying, and I know guys shot more than one turkey in the snow here. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but yeah, out there, as soon as you get up in the elevation, you're talking about snow, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Uh, but I want to flip over to a couple different things here, man.
Okay.
We got to talking about your turkey, and I know that you're a turkey guy, and I know you're turkey crazy. But what?
We need to pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
What kind of relationship do you have with filming? Okay, because I like this question because I talk to a lot of guys, especially guys that self film, and
Yeah.
you know, man, it's so hard to when that moment comes and the deer or the turkey or the wild hog, I don't know, whatever you're filming
Yeah.
and you're out hunting is over here and you're pointing, it's at 2 o'clock and
Yeah.
you're over at 11 o'clock and your camera set up and it just stopped and it's in the opening. And you're like, but it ain't looking at you, but it's looking through you. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're like, damn it. Like, I got to get this on film because, like, I know my friends have passed deer on film that, like, they're haunted by that. They're like,
Oh yeah.
I shouldn't have done it. I should have just shot the damn thing.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how is your relationship with filming? Is it a love hate? Is it just like something that you have totally committed to where you're just like, well, I didn't get them on film, so this ain't what I want.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough answer for this year, but I mean, my background is I started filming a long time ago, and the short version is I spent way too much money on camera gear and thought to myself, I got to figure out how to make money with this. So
Yep.
I started filming some stuff, some commercial type stuff for people, and then had a guy ask me to film his wedding just because he knew I had this big fancy camera. And so I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing with wedding videos, so I guess I'll try. As long as you don't expect anything out of this, like I'll try it. So I did it. They loved it. And the next one I did, I charged a couple $100 for. And then, that snowballed into here 6 years later. I went full time with my wedding videography business last year. So that's what I do for a full-time career. So obviously filming and video and photo is a big portion of my life right now. So that just has always been a part of my hunting life as well. And that's sort of why we started, Creekside with the YouTube stuff this year. But as far as hunting goes, it's definitely not like I'm not passing up stuff that's not on film. Sort of what it always boils down to is if you hunt with me, you're going to get great footage, but I don't have any great footage of my own.
I got you.
It always ends up with, I got my dad who struggles to run the camera, and he's usually watching the turkey come in and the camera's pointed the other direction. And,
Yep.
he's just an old killer, I guess is the easy way to describe it. But so,
my dad's
and
the
then
same.
after this year with the disaster of a hunting season that I ran into, I didn't even have the camera along with me for my first turkey. So I definitely don't don't get that into it, but
Gotcha.
I try to film as much as I can and film other people as much as I can. But it just the nature of it, I guess the camera gear that I'm running isn't something I can just hand over to my dad or my pap or somebody to
Right.
run. It's a little more complex than that, but I'd say the photo end of it is probably what I like the most. After the shot or even during the hunt, just photography has became a little more of my thing when it comes to the hunting than
You know, so that is something I want to touch into real quick because guys like you, they go down this path, okay? And you ever heard guys as they get older, they say, "Oh, I'm getting soft in my old age,"
yeah.
right? Or they're passing up deer that in the past, or maybe not even deer, whatever it is, they're passing this wildlife up as they're hunting them,
Yeah.
and you bring it up and you talk to them about it, and oh, I'm getting soft in my old age. Oh, I just don't really feel like shooting a doe. Oh,
Yeah.
she had two little ones with her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is I have found that them guys are just fulfilled and they just want to be in the woods, right?
Oh yeah.
And then I've seen what a lot of guys will do is they'll pick up a camera
Yeah.
and they'll shoot them deer. They'll shoot those turkey, but they're
Hmm.
not using a gun,
Yeah.
right? They're using a camera
Yeah.
and they get their kicks from that.
Oh yeah.
And that makes
Yeah.
sense. It does. So I feel like, down the line, some point, I feel like Mike Miller might be getting, just I could see you as one of those 100 times lenses with the like a big freaking spotting scope out on the end of it.
Yeah.
And
I
you're
mean, yeah, I definitely. I mean, I spend as much time preseason, scouting or just out
Mhm.
there with the camera, and I like to, think that I do have a fairly nice collection of wildlife photography. But,
Mhm.
um, you know, don't get me wrong, I love stacking my freezer full of venison in the fall too. So,
Right. Well, you
um,
probably, I mean, so when it comes to the whole hunting thing, are you the kind of guy that enjoys the whole process?
oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, we talked about the trail camera thing, and
Mhm.
and I mean, I know I've almost borderline burnt myself out before the season
Oh
started a
yeah,
time
for
or two,
sure.
and we've talked about that before, where I have to like just like sit back and be like, you got to settle down, and you're going to be burnt out by the time the season even gets here, or halfway through the season you're not wanting to do it anymore, and like you get too caught up in the process. But no, um, I definitely enjoy that part of it. I mean, I probably do more preseason scouting with trail cameras and binoculars for turkeys than a lot of people feel like is necessary. But same thing for deer, and
Mhm.
that ties right in with the food plotting that we do, and just you know the whole process of it is a year round thing. Like we're not always necessarily anticipating or looking forward to opening day because we have way too much stuff going on between now and then that it'll get here when it gets here type of thing.
Yeah,
So
it's I'm in the same boat, and what actually I have a show that's going to come out talking about this, an episode, and what it comes down to is, you know, for guys like me and you, it's how much are we willing to put into it, right?
hmm
And what is the will and the goal and the mindset that goes into, hey, I'm going to go get that
yeah,
deer, that specific turkey, or maybe not even specific, right?
yeah,
Just this is what I'm looking for, and I know there's multiple ones like that in this area.
yeah,
Because that's basically the way I look at it. It's just like hunting like a coyote, right?
hmm
You're not gonna get real choosy, right? But
yeah,
you're mobile and you're moving and you're gonna kill. You're out there to kill.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
um, but what I was getting at is how much time are you willing to spend and how far are you willing to push? And then also on the flip side of it, like we were talking about, like your relationships and whether that may be your spouse or your family. And then
Yeah,
also the thing nobody thinks about is maybe you have to go to work, right? So
Yeah.
your boss becomes part of this game because
Yeah.
you're like, hey, cold front's here, I'm sick. And he knows you ain't sick. It's a freaking
Yeah.
cold front, right?
Yeah.
And that's just part of the game. So you need to set yourself up to, have that opportunity. Because I know guys that won't take certain jobs that would better, monetize them, or, put them in better positions within life.
Oh yeah.
But they won't take those jobs because
Yeah.
they're set up to just take a month off immediately,
Yeah.
and then take another month off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
to go hunting,
Yeah.
or going on fishing trips. And I fully understand
Yeah.
what that is and what that means. But
I mean,
it's-
I'll say that the hunting lifestyle that I've lived is 80 to 90% of the reason I chose to go into business for myself.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep, makes sense.
people that aren't hunters are not going to understand that, but I mean, that's been like my goal and my dream since I was young. Like, I wanted to have my own business to where if I decide I want to go deer hunting tomorrow morning, I can do it. Now the job that I left was awesome. I mean, my coworkers, my boss, they were great. They knew what happened in the spring and in the fall with me and worked with me very well on it.
Yep.
But, there's still not, it's still not the same amount of freedom as, working for yourself. So, that
Entrepreneurship is beautiful, but it's not for everybody. And
No.
and what I mean by that is, like, the way that my brain works, and I guarantee the way your brain works too, is like it's just constantly going, going,
Oh, yeah.
going, and there's no rest. Like, it's like there's no rest for the wicked. There's not.
Yep.
Because I'm just constantly like, what can I do next? What can I do next? How do
I
better this?
easily, I just had just had this discussion with someone today. I know I easily work twice as much, twice as hard as when I had, my 9 to 5 job, but that's, that was by design, so I can easily decide tomorrow, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go food plot, or I'm going to go check cameras, and it's definitely not all, me sitting around with my feet up like a lot of people think.
Right.
I keep joking that I'm going to start selling T-shirts that say "must be nice" on them because I hear that
I love
about
that.
once a week. Must be nice to work for yourself and be able to hunt all the time. And
Yeah.
and
You know how I answer that whenever people say that to me?
I
tell
just say yes, it is.
I say exactly what I say. I say, "Yep, yes, it is."
Yeah.
Because you gotta love the hate, man. Because
Yeah.
if you're not getting hated on, then you're doing something wrong, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or you're too comfortable.
And anybody
So-
that says that they don't understand what's happening. Or
Well, they have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
that's just like me going to work a 16-hour shift and then coming home and putting in a 4-hour shift on the podcast, and then Saturday morning I have a wedding to go DJ from. I get there at 9 a.m. or whatever to set up, and then I don't get home until midnight, 1 a.m. And Sunday morning rolls around and they're like, "Hey, you look kind of tired." Yeah, I am, but like, here I am in the yard cutting the grass, or raking leaves or whatever, washing the car, helping my wife with something, and
And my mom's a business owner, and she's on the go 24/7, and so I think I get it honestly from her. And but it was definitely the best decision I've ever made, and I don't look to be going back to the real jobs, as people would say, anytime soon. But so it's definitely been a
Wow.
good.
The other
year and a
thing is
half so far.
the road looks different, man. The road looks different from what it did before 2020.
Oh yeah.
And some people were able to really capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
just the way it is.
if anything good came out of COVID, I'm gonna say that was probably it, because I honestly looked at things and was like, man, I have a handful of friends that passed away early, and just different things that people ran into, and it's just like makes you realize life's too short to not wake up every day and enjoy what you're doing. And you hear it day in and day out. Someone just complaining or just looks miserable about their job, and it's like, you know, just go do something you like. I mean, you know, and that was one thing that I, decided to do was just, you know, do something that I could wake up every morning and not be, oh man, I got to go to work today. So,
Yep. No, you chose the right path for hunting. My dad's self-employed, and I watch him do it all the time. And he'll text me at work and be like, "Hey, how's work? Just shot a nice buck." Thanks, dude. Thanks, man.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But um, let's roll it in a little bit because we could do a whole episode on entrepreneurship. Honest to God, I want to talk about something that's going on in the hunting space, man, and it's wild to me. Really, is crazy. But that's the trail cam ban, and I want to see what your thoughts are on this, and maybe there's ethics that you think come into play with this, and I want to pick your brain on that matter.
Um, as far as them
Well,
banning cameras in places?
so Kansas, I believe, is a full ban if I read it right.
Yeah. I believe
Um,
you're right on it.
I think it's a full ban, whether it's public, whether it's private. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's just public. I will have to look. I don't want to just put words in somebody else's mouth. But
Yeah.
I know that as of, I think, 2 days or 3 days ago, Delaware, the state of Delaware, just banned trail cam use on public land.
Wow. I didn't
So
even
that,
know there was anything you could hunt in Delaware, to be honest with you. I don't think I've
ooh,
ever heard of anything
true?
coming out of there to
Yes.
hunt. So
You know what's really funny is there is one little spot. I know there's a certain county down in Delaware where there's giant whitetails.
what is it
I
like? Is it like an acre and a half or something?
Yeah, right,
Feel
right,
like that
right.
state's super tiny.
Yeah, right. It's like a little kid's play set, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. Okay. So here, I guess this is the way that I see it, or the way that I can. So the only thing that I can think that somebody could say, boy, that's a little bit too much of an advantage, would be, I could see somebody saying, oh, cell phone cameras are giving you an advantage. Well, yes, they
Yeah.
are, but that's the whole point of them, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's you're selling. I just had this conversation with Matt Sipling, and he hit it right on the head. You're selling, or you're buying some time, I guess is
Yeah.
what it is, right? Because
Yep.
you know how much work goes into running stationary cameras. So when
Yeah.
you have a cell phone camera, then you don't have to bother the area,
Yeah.
or you can hunt Pennsylvania. You can be in Pennsylvania, like you said, kicking your feet up, and it must be
Yeah.
nice. and
Yeah.
you're and you're hunting Kansas, right? You're
Mhm.
watching. You're waiting for some camera
Yeah.
footage on some land, in Kansas or whatever. But I can't. I mean, even then, man, I don't know. The only time that I've ever seen or heard or run into it unfair, and I talked about this once before, so I'm gonna make it quick. I know I read a story about a guy who had 4 trail cameras, or 5 maybe it was, and it was line. They had him in like a certain line on his property, and he caught a picture of the deer moving one way, and he got out of his tree stand, he cut it off, and then
Yeah.
on the other side of his property. And I read that, and I said, boy, that really, really did give him a very big advantage,
Oh,
because
for
he would have
sure.
never even known that thing was there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I could see that. For instance, if you own a farm in Ohio, and you're allowed to bait and hunt over bait, so
right,
you
yeah,
could basically be sitting in your living room and the camera go off, and oh, there's a
yeah,
buck out back. You could go out
and
and
shoot it.
shoot the deer.
Yeah,
But
right.
um, I definitely. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you could argue this the whole way back to why aren't we using sticks and rocks to hunt anymore? As
See,
far as
and right, and that's
technology and
right.
whatever.
Yep.
Whether it be crossbows or
Hmm.
trail cameras or scents and lures or decoys or ground blinds. I mean, it literally could go back. It's literally a preference thing, and
Yep. No,
you
you,
know,
you you hit it right on the head, man. I hear guys talk about baiting, right?
yeah,
And I have hunted all these other states. I've never had to bait or tried to bait deer.
yeah,
But what what brings me into the conversation of that word? Okay, I don't like that word,
Yeah.
bait or lure,
Yeah.
because what is baiting or luring? Okay,
Yeah.
because I use calls in my baiting and luring a deer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So that's what, and I'm just, I'm touching on what you were saying about like the technology,
Yeah.
So there's a play on that.
I like the food plot versus corn
Yeah.
pile debate
Right.
as
Right.
well.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
Yeah.
And or you could go hunt over a cornfield, but
Yeah.
the squirrels have all of the corn stacked right there in that one spot,
Yeah.
or the groundhogs or the crows or whatever. It's all
Yep.
sitting right there, and
Yeah.
the deer or the bear, God forbid you have a bear in there, he drags all your shit around, all your corn
Yeah.
stalks laying all over the place. But
Yeah. Oh, I mean, legally in Pennsylvania, this came right from a game warden.
yeah,
If the grain cart, you know, driver takes a turn too much and he dumps out 100 pounds of corn, you're allowed to put a tree stand up over there because it hunted or it ended up there during normal farming practices.
yeah,
But you know, obviously we grew up not being able to bait, but if they make baiting legal next week in Pennsylvania, probably a lot of people are going to be going out and getting bags of corn and
boy, farmers would like that.
oh yeah, for sure.
The shelled corn market go booming.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that you'll see it up here in Pennsylvania, man.
Oh
And
no,
the only
definitely not in
reason
our area with CWD, but
that's right. I was
I
gonna say
mean,
the only reason I
no.
don't think you will is because of because of disease practices.
Yeah,
That's
that's a whole nother podcast. But
yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
back to the trail
I don't want to
cameras.
get into that on this one. So
I mean,
uh,
we use a lot of cell cameras. Between my
yeah,
dad and I
right. You were
and
talking about
buddies,
it.
we probably run 25 cell cameras a
That's
year, and
I'm
um,
impressed.
it's been a more of a
It's a toll.
I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely a toll.
Hmm.
It becomes a little bit obsessive.
Right, for
I wake
sure.
up in the middle of the night to look at my
Yeah,
cameras and worrying about what buck is
yeah. I
running
know.
where or whatever. But I mean, it definitely helps. I mean, the biggest thing for us is like we have a camp 2 hours from here, and it's nice to have cameras running up there and see what's going on. And
Yeah, for sure.
and
Yep.
I would say the biggest thing from a deer hunting point of view, I guess, would be the rut. Like, you check your cameras during the rut. Um, Most of the time, even if you check them every week, by the time you check them, if you've ever watched any of the Drury stuff, the different phases of the rut,
Hmm.
they go pretty quickly. And by the time you check your camera a week later, that deer's doing something completely different.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
when he's standing at a scrape and your camera rings, right now what phase of the rut's going on in your area. So, but I'm saying I'm neutral on the whole thing because as far as that goes, I see how that could be an advantage
Hmm.
over not having that, capability.
Right.
And the thing is, um, like all of these advancements, like 400 to 500 feet per second crossbows, the different scents and lures, the food plots, all this stuff, it's all great. I mean, it's the same reason why you're driving a Chevy truck around and not a Model T Ford anymore. It's advancements in technology, but
Yep.
the one thing that none of that does is it doesn't help the shared resource that is turkeys or deer. So there needs to be a little bit more emphasis on the conservation side of things too. People need to worry about that a little bit as well, I think. Because it's certainly allowing more people to kill deer and turkeys, you know, with crossbows being legal for everyone, for,
Hmm.
ground blinds and decoys with turkeys. I mean,
Right.
anybody that's hunted turkeys in a ground blind with decoys knows that it's almost too easy, you know, to a certain point. So, yeah, the amount of turkeys that are able to be killed using that method is way more than if you're just sitting out against a tree with a wing bone call or whatever. So
Right.
it definitely, like, it might not seem like a big deal, like if you're looking at it on a small scale, but when you're looking at the whole state over the next 20 years, what are, I don't have any kids, but you do. What are your kids going to be,
Hmm.
looking like from a hunting standpoint
Well,
20, 15, 20 years from now?
what I have said in the past is I I use cameras for two things. One is a tool, the other is for leisure.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just want to see animals,
Oh
and
yeah.
I feel more connected in the woods when I have those cameras there. I feel giddy. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like I'm going to get like a freaking Christmas present when I go
Yeah.
in to get that SD card and switch them
Yep.
out, because I'm like, what's on there? I'm like, I look like Tyrone Biggums from Chappelle's Show. I'm scratching my neck. I'm like, hey, y'all got
Yeah.
any of them SD cards?
Yeah.
Um, but I think what hurts here is, okay, so you want to start deer hunting. Okay, first step one, buy a trail camera, right? Like it's like this cookie cutter thing now. And what I don't like is like, guys, you got to have some woodsmanship here. Like you know, you don't just go stick a camera on a tree and say, "Oh, I'm going to hunt here. This is nice." Because there's other things that you need to be looking for. And you don't even need a camera. I don't know how many times I went in blind and shot deer.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
sometimes I just would like to do that. And I know a lot of my friends have hung trail cameras up totally, and they just don't. They won't get them out anymore, and
Yeah.
they want to go in, they want to hunt blind, and they have fun doing it. And I understand. I just get so curious, and I am a little bit of a planner. So I'm like, well, if I know that this deer's around here, then I want to be in that area, and you know
Yeah.
how it is.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had the discussion, you know, about with kids, getting kids involved in hunting and stuff, like, you know, back when we both started hunting, you had to be 12 to start hunting.
mhm.
And now all of a sudden you're essentially your 4-year-old could go hunting if you
Oh
think
yeah,
that it, is a good idea.
right.
But I think that's great. Like, I like being able to get kids involved and stuff, but there was a certain, you know, feeling of accomplishment when, like, I went along with my dad or my pap when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and
Mhm.
had to just watch,
Watch. Yep.
and then knowing that, all right, I put my time in, now I'm 12, I can go. And you almost had to, like, earn it. So now you got these, 5, 6, 7 year olds that are able to go out and, sit in a ground blind and shoot a deer or shoot a turkey.
Mhm.
And that's great. Like, I
Right.
promote
Right.
that,
For sure.
100%. But
Yep.
I see people doing that, that same 7-year old that, shot their first deer at 7 is 20 years old now and still has to go along with their dad and sit in, a ground blind, or they're not going to be able to kill a deer.
Mm,
And I
yep.
just I'm nervous to how the future's going to look when, a kid isn't going to be able to go out and find a deer trail or know that that's a buck bed or, a deer bed or whatever. And, you know, if they start getting to where they're not wanting to go anymore, when that percentage of people is higher than the people that are hunting, that's not a good thing anymore.
Not in the state of the more liberal.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
That's not good at all. No,
Yeah,
no, that really weighs heavily on us. But that I just want to say that goes back. That's society number one, because it's just
absolutely.
just flat out there's a lot of nipple suckers out there, and I would just come out and say it.
Yeah.
But you know,
I'm going to use that term.
but the other problem that derives from that is, so that 20-year-old kid that was a 7-year-old hunting with his dad, like, why was that drive never instilled in him at some point that he wanted to go get it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, And that's what we were talking about earlier about like how bad do you want it? Because we were talking about even the must be nice thing. People tell me all the time, boy, it must be nice to shoot a nice buck every year. You
Yeah.
know what? Listen, you know how much time that I put in for these animals
Oh
and
yeah.
like the audacity for somebody to come up and say something like that to you, sometimes
Yeah.
it just blows my
Oh
mind.
yeah. Nobody really understands.
No, they have no clue. And the guys that do are the guys that are listening to this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the men and women that put in that time,
Oh yeah.
even even some women that put in the time on the other end. And what that is dad's not home, husband's
Yeah.
not home, boyfriend's not
Oh yeah.
home, right? They're out in the woods and they support it on the other end. You know, like
Yeah.
God bless my wife, she puts up with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
it comes both ways, and like you said, I don't like where that's going either because
Yeah.
I I think that what we're doing is a good thing though. Like when we're putting out these kind of messages and we're
Yeah.
getting in people's ear, like, hey, listen,
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're a 14-year-old boy or girl, and you're gonna be 16 soon. And I know, I think I was like 15 or so when my dad's like, okay, like the nest it's empty, like you gotta
Yeah.
go.
Find your own spot.
Yeah, you gotta go. Like I don't
Yeah.
know where you're going, but you need to go,
Yeah.
and you need to go kill your own deer. And I
Yeah.
still bounce stuff off of them, but you
Oh
know,
yeah.
uh, like I said, my mind's always racing, and in his mind, I was just talking to another guy about this the other day, and yeah, I would tell my dad, well, I found this nice rub, and then there was this, there was three scrapes around this white oak, and the white oaks were dropping, and I know this is a really good spot, and he's like, dude, how much deer shit was there? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know, and he's like, well, then how do you know there's deer there? And I'm like, well, there was a sign. He said, yeah, but how often are they there? And I'm like, damn it, dude, like, why do I always overthink this shit? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, like that's just one of the things I try to tell people, just and that's the other thing with trail cameras I wanted to touch on real quick. How many times has a trail camera told you you need to be here and really you didn't feel like you did, but you did because the trail camera said you needed to be there, but your gut said you should have been somewhere else.
Yeah. Or flip that around.
Right?
And
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I can tell you right here, I'm sitting in my office looking at my wall of trail cameras here. I have them all stored on my little shelf here, and
Mhm.
I have about every brand you can think of, maybe
Mhm.
minus a few, but um, there isn't one single camera here. I got a $35 Wild Game Innovations camera, and I got a $600 Reconic cell camera, and
Mhm.
every single one of them has an issue with them that, some are better than others, but for the most part, there's something wrong in some aspect with every one of them cameras, and they are not 100% foolproof. And I
Mhm.
can tell you, and whether people listening want to admit this, there's been a ton of times where I have not went to a spot because I didn't have a deer on a camera there.
Mhm.
And knowing that that deer could just walk 6 inches behind that camera and I'd never get a picture of him. And I think that happens so many times.
Oh.
I
Oh.
guarantee it happens to myself. Um, but it probably happens a lot more. Like trail cameras probably save as many deer as they kill.
That's funny. You're probably
So,
right.
but
Especially I want to say I do want to touch on that real quick too because I know for a fact how many pictures have you got of a deer that like a big buck or a mature doe that look at your camera and then you don't see him again. You don't.
oh yeah,
And they'll skirt that camera. They
yeah,
will. They'll
for
still
sure.
be there, but they'll
Yep.
skirt the camera.
I think that's one benefit of the cell cameras. You can get them out early when maybe those deer aren't,
Mm.
really paying much attention to them. But definitely before cell cameras, you get real antsy to go check them, and you're wanting to check them, weekly and whatever,
Oh
and
yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
absolutely condition a deer to know where your camera is. Maybe not the exact camera. I mean, I know
Right.
some of them you can clearly tell that okay, he saw that flash go off and maybe not come back by there, but
Right, right.
just going in and checking them, you're putting scent everywhere, and you're
Yep.
basically saying, "Don't come here."
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I mean,
Check them on your way out is what I
in the
tell
last few
guys.
years, we've started doing this a lot, and it's pretty interesting. But we'll go out like this time of year, and we'll put a camera, and we'll just let it. We'll let it there till March of next year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see what happens in certain spots over a year when you're not in there and messing around. And, if I have like a hunch that, all right, I found this oak flat that I want to hunt, but, I'll throw a camera up there and I'll go back and get it in a year. And then maybe I'll dive into hunting it after the fact. But that's been pretty interesting tactic that I've
That's
started using lately. And
I love it.
it's
Yep,
cool to see what happens to a certain spot over a course of a year. But
I do the same thing.
or
So,
else you go back and the camera didn't work, or it got stolen or eaten by a bear, and that throws all that out the window.
oh man, guy just asked me the other day about. He said he had a bear problem with his cameras, and I said,
Oh my gosh.
I have a spot where I had too, and I started wearing rubber gloves in to put the camera up.
Oh, I could go on for 2 more hours about bears. I mean, we have a property that I, if I wanted to shoot a bear there, I keep telling people that just give me all your old trail cameras. I'm just gonna hang them up and
That's
basically
funny.
be like hunting over bait because they find my cameras and they just I don't know,
Yeah.
but we have a camera or we have a our camp is in Driftwood, PA,
Hmm.
and it's pretty loaded with bears up there. And I'll hang a camera up and 10 bears could walk by it and not even touch it. But this one property, back home here, I'll put a camera up and it's just like instantly a bear will be in there. And I've done so many different things. My next step is to put metal bear boxes out and hook batteries to them. Like, I don't know what else to do at this
That's
point. Like, I've made like these medieval looking camera boxes where I got nails sticking out of them so that they don't mess with them. And I'll try putting them up in the air, and then the cubs will climb up and they just use them as play toys. And they love antennas on cellular cameras, so
yeah, chew on them and rip them off.
it's just an ongoing issue with the bears.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny, man. I see that more and more, and Pennsylvania's bear population had just exploded. Now I know this year they knocked them down pretty good from what I seen.
Yeah.
The harvest was real high this year, but uh, you know, that is no thanks to a certain guy that I would like to get on the show, and I am going to reach out to him, and I think maybe he'll give us some time, and that's Dr. Gary Alt, and I'd like to have a conversation with him about some bear stuff
Yeah.
and definitely some whitetail stuff because we are reaping the benefits of some of the stuff that he did that was very, very controversial at the time.
Oh yeah.
But I will tell you that I'm a very large fan, and I may have not been because of what I grew up around.
Hmm.
Whenever the antler restrictions come in, I remember maybe some f bombs flying around a lot,
Oh yeah.
and now that's religion around Pennsylvania. I mean, people, we love our antler restrictions for the most part,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, so that was all right about when I don't remember exactly, but it was very close to when I started hunting and went from a youth hunter to adult hunter because I
mhm,
remember thinking, man, how in the
yes,
world am I going to count 3 points on this thing when it's coming in? But,
yep,
I mean, I can say, you know, it's definitely been a good thing
yep, yep. I
overall
I
for sure.
I agree. I know some guys will come and talk about, oh well, that now that little spike's breeding all the does or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
then shoot them does, shoot them too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they need killing too.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not gonna get on here and preach about the no doe hunting thing because I go and I kill does.
Oh yeah.
So
You don't you don't want to come at me with no doe hunting.
yeah, I'm the wrong guy. I'm the guy you bring in whenever
Yeah,
you got too many does
absolutely. Yeah.
because I got that switch and I'll flip that switch and I just yeah, I can go in and I can do some killing for you if you need.
Oh yeah. I
So
I don't ever my dad always tells me he's like you know why you don't kill any bucks, right? He's like cuz you shoot the first doe that walks by every time. And he's not wrong, but
right,
I mean I just love that I
whack 'em
get
and
just
stack 'em,
as
man.
jacked up for that
I
as I
do
do
too. I
anything
love it.
else, but
I love it. As soon as
you know. And
anything that
I mean, we're about to buy another freezer for venison here. So
yeah,
thankfully, Allison likes to eat venison as much as I do. So we
I bet you our house is probably I'd say on average at least twice a week, at least.
Oh yeah, we're
You
at
know,
least there, if not more. But
right? 3 times a week.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's you're not gonna stop me from buying doe tags.
For sure.
'Cause I haven't been on a property around my area, and we're right in the quote unquote CWD hotspot. I haven't been
Mm,
on any property that doesn't need does thinned out. So
yeah.
you're not going to convince me of that. But
Yeah.
so, but
I'm
yeah,
in one.
you wanna have a good discussion about deer biology. I need to get you in touch with Kip
Okay.
Adams from the NDA.
Okay.
He'll
Well,
talk
we're
to you
gonna
for
we'll talk more about that later
yeah
on.
for sure.
But yeah, we'll definitely. I'm very interested in that. So, I want to flip over to a hunting reset, man.
Okay.
Because when I say a hunting reset, oh man, it gets wild. Like the season, like you said, I would say whenever August comes, my eyes start to glaze over and I get into that freaking wolf mode.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm leaving here at like 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m., and I'm going to the game lands. And I'm got my backpack ready to rock and roll, and my wife's trying to get a hold of me by 11.
Yeah.
Are you coming home? And I mean that's why I'm leaving so early.
Yeah.
Because I need to come home, and I know I need to be home, but I want to be in the woods.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, you got to try to split hairs and split your time correctly. But, um, you know, what happens though is I'll go on a hunting trip, and let's say, like, I know I went on a hunting trip couple years, probably 3 years ago, I think, and I sat. Now this is what I wanted to do. I knew I was in a hot spot. I knew where there was large, mature bucks in this area, and I sat on my ass from dark to dark for 5 days. And day 6 rolled around, and I muffed. I muffed the punt. I did. The deer come in. I made a bad shot. I didn't get him. And but what I'm saying is, so then I knew, and I had to step back and reset. And I was
Yeah.
just smoked, man. I was burnt. I didn't have nothing left. I was almost. I'm gonna say I wasn't losing the enjoyment for it, but it got to be monotonous. You
Yeah.
know. And I want to see how you feel about that. Like, what do you need to step back and take a hunting reset? Is there a certain time of the year you do that, or do you do in season? Hey, it's raining. Hey, I'm just not going to. It's Sunday. I could go check my trail cameras. I could go scouting or whatever, but I
Yeah,
just
because
need.
sure as heck can't go hunting.
Oh yeah, well, don't even get me started because that's all I talk about on this show.
Yeah, I know. I figured I would throw that in there.
Oh man, I hate that shit. I just grit my teeth every time I think of it. But
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen
it will.
soon.
It's coming. It's coming. I know. I've
Yeah,
talked to the right people, and the right people are involved, and it's coming.
yeah. I would say before 2 years ago, yeah, I would get burnt out on stuff. Like I said, I'd start food plots in June and you know planting in August, and it would just be a process. Trail cameras, the whole 9 yards. But
Hmm.
um, 2 years ago, I got into waterfowl hunting, and not that I needed another hobby or
I was gonna
anything,
say, oh goodness
but
God.
a few of my buddies they would always tell me like, dude, you got to come waterfowl hunting. You won't even want to bow hunt anymore. And I was like, there's no way that's happening.
Right. Exactly.
But I will say there was a slight amount of truth to that because 2 years ago I spent the second week of November scouting for ducks and geese more than I did sitting in a tree stand.
Damn.
And it became a little bit of an obsession. But I mean, I'm not exactly the most patient person. Anybody that knows me can confirm that. So waterfowl is,
Right.
a lot
Makes
of
sense.
on the go scouting. Most of waterfowl season for us is spent in the truck scouting. For potentially we'll scout for 5 days to have one good hunt, and most of the time for that you're sitting around, BSing with your buddies, and then somebody yells ducks or geese, and then you go into hide mode for a little bit, and then shoot a couple, and then get back to talking. So it's definitely a complete 180 from your typical, deer season where you're sitting in a tree with a bow and, yourself. So I think that's why I enjoy it so much. But that's sort of my way of resetting, I guess. Um, I spend a lot of time doing that and try to bounce back and forth between the two. I'm fortunate with my career now that I don't have to, you know, just hunt Saturdays or, a lot of guys, that's all they have to hunt or, Fridays or whatever. So, if I know the weather's bad or, things aren't happening, that's when I'll, mix it up and I'll go duck hunt for a couple days or scout or something like that. So, um, that's an advantage, I guess, of my career.
For sure.
But, and that's what kind of keeps me, you know, sane, I guess. But I definitely know what you mean by, spending a week sitting in a tree for, you know, hope to see a deer dark to dark and then finally having the chance and then, not succeeding, but that definitely can mentally drain you. But I would say that's my way to reset would be doing other stuff. But
Yeah, it's I do, like you said, pretty much the same. I try to make time for that reset, and even if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I mean, I want to go and I know I need to be there, but maybe let me just gather my thoughts, sleep in, right? And what I mean by sleep in is, okay, so 7 o'clock instead of
yeah,
4:30 a.m. And then I'll get in my truck, I'll drink my coffee, you know. Of course, I'll take, some toilet paper with me because we all know how that ends. And
don't want to be missing a sock by 8:30.
yeah, right, exactly. So, I'll fertilize the woods and I'll have my thoughts gathered. That by then it'll be like light out, so I know I'm gonna be able to climb into a good tree. If I'm hunting out of a tree, because I think that we've all fall victim that anybody who's mobile has won in the woods in the morning and gotten a tree that they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And you get up there and you're like, I can't shoot out of this thing. One day I climbed into a dead tree, and I was like, what the hell am I
Yeah.
doing? And I just should have known better. It just looked like a good tree, but once I got lighter and I looked up and I seen the tree was dead, and I'm like, what the hell was it? It was an ash tree and it was all bored out. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's something I think that guys should look into making time for is just instead of just pushing like that, like there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like, you just sleep in or whatever, and you go out and get it in the morning. And I even know guys that will sleep in the morning sometimes after like a long 3 days hunting or whatever, and then they'll go in at noon, right? Where most guys might be coming out to eat lunch or whatever, they're going in, they're gonna go set up a nice setup, and they're gonna sit till dark, right? And that's just different ways, different strokes for different folks. But um, I want to get into some other stuff here real quick, man. I want to know something you think that the Pennsylvania does really well when it comes to hunting. And then on the flip side of that, I want to know something you think that needs changed or something that needs looked at. And you know what? It can't be Sunday hunting because I already know how you feel about Sunday hunting. And yes, I already know that. So
Yeah.
it's got to be something else.
All right. I would say the stuff they do well would be the turkey season. I know
Okay.
that's very controversial
All
between
right.
people,
Yes, it
but
is.
I mean, I don't think it's bad because I feel like, and not to sound like an asshole, but if everybody could hunt the week before youth season, there wouldn't be any turkeys left in a couple
Mm-hmm.
years.
I got you.
I mean, because the guys that I don't know, it would make it a lot easier. I mean,
We could
everybody
just
knows
go
that.
to other people's states and shoot their turkeys early. How about that?
Yeah, I mean that's what I like to do. I use that time to go out and take pictures because turkeys are doing their thing everywhere you look. So I would say they definitely have that. That's sort of a controversial thing. I like that they added a lot of bear seasons. We have a lot more bears in my area than we ever have, so I like that they added that.
Hmm.
Um, what else do they do good? I don't know.
How about
I like how we're finally getting rid of the pink envelope thing.
there you go.
Like
Yeah, that's
we're not prehistoric anymore with that, which could also be an answer to my next question. Like some of the stuff that we're behind on as far as technology. But one of the things I'd like to see them do
yeah.
is, and maybe you can tell me, or some of our listeners could tell us, um, you know, different issues that come up, whether it be harvest data or whatever. Like, I feel like they could probably enforce some stuff a little bit more that would allow them to get the data that they need. The biggest thing I'm
Yeah.
thinking of is report cards, which
Hmm.
probably 9 out of 10 people listening to this are going to be like, "What's a report card?"
Yep.
And I'm guilty of it too. I mean,
Right.
the statute of limitations probably is up for this, but I haven't filled out every report card that I've ever, you know,
Right.
needed to. But
Hmm.
um, when it comes to certain, even for non-harvests, um, I think they could maybe crack down a little bit on making people report. And I don't know. I feel like it would be a pretty easy thing to do. So a couple years back, I don't know if it was in your area or not, but at the very beginning of CWD, they had DMA tags.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember if
Oh
those or
yeah.
if they were in your area or not,
Yep.
but
Yep. They were. I remember
okay.
'em.
So it was a separate tag that was good for your disease management area.
Uh-huh. For antlerless only.
Yes. And if you got one of those, and I believe DMAPs and maybe the second turkey tag was like this too at one point. If you didn't report it, successful or not, you were not eligible for that next year.
Yeah. Yep.
And, you know, a lot of times when you talk to, you know, higher up people in the game commission, they talk about the lack of data that they have. And I feel like, if let's be honest, everybody has a cell phone. Most people, I mean, some people don't, but
Right.
for the most,
I would venture to say that it's probably 80%.
yeah. And it's fairly simple process now to get on your cell phone or your computer and report your harvest, whatever it may be. So
Hmm.
I feel like if they made it to where you had to do that with all of your tags, deer, turkey, bobcat, fisher, whatever, and they make some kind of circumstance where if you don't do it, something happens next year, whether it be, I know as well as you, if you tell me I have to report my buck tag, whether I killed or didn't, or else I don't get one next year, someone's going to take the 5 minutes to go report it. And now they have 100% data from the entire state.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's a few different issues that I've listened to that, their answer was, "Oh, we don't have enough data." One was the Sunday hunting that we have in rifle season.
Hmm.
Somebody asked a question on another podcast I listened um, to someone from the game commission on how many deer were harvested on that first Sunday we were allowed to hunt in rifle season,
Yeah.
and they just plain had no answer to it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I don't know the details of what that information would have done, but I just feel like they're a little bit lazy on that end as far as gathering data. I think that, I mean, I don't know. You tell me if you can think of any reasons why that would be a negative if they tell people that they have to report their harvest or they can't get that tag next year. I mean,
So
are they going to lose that many license sales?
no, no,
Or,
they're not. They're not. But I don't think that this is negative or anything like that. But so the deer, like the deer management game is insane.
oh
You're
yeah,
talking about, I mean, and we just going back into what we were talking about with Dr. Gary Alt. I
yeah,
mean, the guy was receiving death threats,
yeah,
and like he was a bear guy for years, forever. And whenever he transitioned over to the white, I can't imagine what that was like. And he probably knew what he was getting into, because the whitetail game is crazy, man, and people don't know what the hell they're talking about. Everybody wants to see more deer. So well, we're not going to shoot the does. Well,
yeah.
that's fine, but guess what? There's consequences to that, and the deer will flat out ruin a whole habitat and kill themselves. They'll do it.
Oh yeah,
There's just nothing left to eat. So when they're not managed properly, and that's what you got to tell. I don't want to use the word, but liberal people, that these animals have to be killed. We're not just
yeah.
we're not just out gunning them down, right?
No.
There's a whole different. We're hunters. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're not. I don't want to. I'm not a guy that will tell you that I harvest anything, because I kill things.
Yeah.
All right, I go out and I kill them and I eat them.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't care who that offends. It's just the way I was raised, and I'm gonna hunt whether it's legal or not, and I'm not gonna promote doing anything illegal. But I'm just saying, if they take our hunting, like we won't be infringed upon, and we won't be tread on either. We're gonna do what we want to do, and we're gonna live a certain way.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I was getting into, as far as like the state not doing that, I don't know why they wouldn't do that, because I'm fully on agreement with you. So Ohio used to have a check-in system whenever I was younger, and we would kill a deer and you'd have to take it, like there was plenty of bars and stuff like that, but that was, number one, it was really good for the local business, right? Because then, dad takes me and my brother or whatever, we just shot a nice buck, and they weigh it, they take a look at it. There was a couple little things they filled out on the piece of paper, and then they snapped like a tag on it, like a steel tag on its back leg.
Yeah.
And then in the meanwhile, my dad is there with my brother and I or whatever, and we're getting bags of chips, and maybe my dad has a beer or whatever, and we're getting sodas and maybe order food or whatever while we're at these check-in places. So there's a local economy that you can get going with something like that. Now they got rid of that, but what they have over there now is, I believe it's 48 hours, and you have to call in your kill. You can either call it in or you can get on the computer, like you were saying. But so now they've catered to both sides, and so what happens is, so say I shot that deer Thursday, I'm bringing it home Sunday, and we get stopped. That deer's not legal, and it's too late.
Yeah.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So now the game warden's going to take my deer, right? And I'm going to get a fine at the same time. So now I'm not only going to get a fine, I'm also going to get my deer taken from me.
Yeah.
So why they wouldn't do it, I don't know. There's plenty of ways they could do it, and that's just one option. And I think you're right, and I've brought this up in the past, that they need to find a better way to get the numbers on kills.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to add that I think that the state could change and do a little bit better on is, that there's no such thing as a mercy kill in our state?
As far as finding a wounded deer?
Yep, wounded deer
Okay.
comes by you. It has 2 legs. I don't know. It has 3 legs, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
and it's it's not that it has 3 legs. Like, I've seen 3-legged deer, but you know what I'm saying. It's the third day.
One that's clearly not going to make it.
That's right. And then you knock that deer down, and it's a 4-point. That's an illegal kill.
Yeah.
There's no and if ors about it. If you call the game warden and you tell him, hey, it was a mercy kill, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me. That blows my mind.
I could agree with that too.
So, don't get me wrong. Is there people that would take advantage of some type of mercy kill? It was a mercy kill.
Yeah. It looked like it was hurt. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure. But
and those are the type. Unfortunately, those are the reasons for most rolls is people that are going to break them. But
that's right. That's right. But you're never going to have it all perfect anyway. So,
no.
I would like to see something set in place. Because they're able to grab a hold of my gun and tell me whether I shot it or not that day. So I think that we could look at a deer and say it was going to make it or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would like to see something like that change, just because I was part of a situation. I was around some guys, and I had known of this deer that they shot earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And we weren't hunting with that group, but when we got checked out later in the day, the game warden mentioned that they fined some guys for shooting a 4-point, and the guy told him it was a mercy kill. Well, we weren't far. We seen that deer.
Yeah.
We were pushing some deer around, and yeah, it was. I believe it was a mercy kill.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they said they fined him and they took the deer. So I could see him. Hey, the guy's gonna pay the $25, $30 fine, $50 fine, whatever it is. But how are you going to take the deer then too? I don't like that.
There's probably a handful of people that, know they only have one buck tag, that even if it was a legal buck, but maybe it's small and they don't want to, burn their tag on that one necessarily, that would potentially let a
wounded
deer go by because of that. And,
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong or right, but
Right.
I'd have a hard time.
Situational. It
I've
really
never
is.
personally had that happen where I was hunting and had, that happen, but I could see why it would
For sure.
become an issue. But
Well, that's one of them things that it's situational,
yeah,
and it's something I think that they could look into and maybe try to make something. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
they don't, and it just is what it is. But
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm just
Yeah.
expressing some opinions on stuff. But
I think one more thing that they
Yeah.
did really well that might lose a few friends for me here is taking rifle season back to Saturday. I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that thoroughly. But I work a lot, so
Yeah.
of course I would. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean,
So,
if it,
I love it.
it's
I think
very
awesome.
simple. We have 2 more days to hunt. Anybody that's against that, you're an idiot.
I think you're crazy.
You don't have to cut that out either if you don't want
Yeah.
to.
No, trust me, I won't cut it out. And I will tell you, there's lots of other states that surround us that, like, Ohio, I can hunt from the last week of September
Yeah.
until the middle of February with my bow.
Yeah, every single day.
Every day.
Yeah. I think South Carolina you can do that with a rifle.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wild, man. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Now-
Now you couldn't do that. You obviously you couldn't have that in PA. You know what I mean?
No,
the
no.
rifle season is grueling as it is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that being shortened up a little bit, but I mean,
yeah, I think that
it
there's a
is
lot of
what it
guys that
is.
would agree with you on that. Would
Yeah.
you remember? You're old enough to remember the 3-day doe.
I wasn't old enough to hunt then, but that was
You
the
remember
times
it,
where I
though.
was along for the ride kind
Yeah,
of deal.
Me too.
And
Me too.
yeah. But I don't want that. I don't want to only be able to shoot does for 3 days.
Right. I'm just saying. You remember how it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
for sure. I mean,
and then-
we're not. It's different
Yeah.
now in every aspect of life, really, but than it was back then. But
Oh, geez, I can remember when they did the open season for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and that was a new thing. Boy, I
Yeah.
remember the gunshots I heard on that first day. I'll never forget how many gunshots I heard, and
yeah,
I was just sitting in my tree stand thinking, these deer are all dead. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
deer left.
Yeah.
Was I was wrong, and
Yeah.
I was young and dumb, and all that, but
yeah.
I also
Sometimes-
remember when they opened the water tower up in Glendale. So, if you never hunted up there, so Glendale Water Tower, man, there was so many deer up there, it was crazy, and they opened it for flintlock only,
Okay.
and it was awesome.
Really?
It was so much fun, dude. I don't know how many rounds I fired that day.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, I still don't agree with it, but they opened it for the rifles after that, and it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the massacre. But when
Yeah.
it was flintlock only, dude, it was so much fun
Yeah.
in there. I'll never forget that.
Since you mentioned flintlock, that's one thing that personally doesn't really affect me because I archery hunt, but I know a few guys that are big into the flintlock world that are flintlock specific, not just muzzleloaders. Like they're all flintlock, and they sort of feel left out because they have no chance to shoot a buck with a flintlock until after everybody and their brother has been
I see.
combed through, and I get it. I mean, but also from a overall, what are the amount of people in the whole state that only want to hunt with a flintlock?
So
So,
what do you think that they would want to see then?
um, I guess a chance to shoot a buck early with a flintlock,
Before rifle season?
which you could argue like during the early muzzleloader where it's only
Don't
antlerless.
don't.
But there'd be no way to differentiate like you can hunt that season for a buck if you're using a flintlock, but if you're using inline, you can't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got to think about the amount of you know
Yeah. Right.
wardens that we have on patrol, and like
Oh yeah.
I don't think it'd be a logistical nightmare,
Oh my God, I can't. Yeah,
but
I know.
yeah.
That would be so hard to
It
see.
sounds
But
good on paper, but I
yeah,
mean,
when they could do it would be during that bear season after archery season.
yeah, yeah,
You could do a flintlock only.
that would be possible for sure.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, the only thing I've had guys talk to me about that too, and they're like, "Oh," I said, "Well, you can use your flintlock in rifle season." And they're like, "Yeah, but why would I do that?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Well,
yep,
right." And that's like guys. I do know guys that take their bow in rifle season, and hats off to them.
yeah,
And I've had guys ask me like, "Am I allowed to take my bow?" I said, "Yeah, it's any lesser weapon, a
yeah,
rifle or any lesser."
yeah, absolutely.
So, but
I always thought that would be cool if I was tagged out to take, if I would shoot a buck early, I'd think it'd be cool to take the bow during rifle, but um, haven't got that lucky yet.
no, no, I thought about doing it before, and I just was like, I just
Yeah.
what I love about my rifle season is I just love putting the miles on and the camaraderie.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? And the biggest thing with rifle season is it's like if you go hunting as a group, whether you're driving and pushing deer or not, it's like when somebody shoots one, it's like, oh, we shot that deer,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? It's a
Yep.
group effort, even if like
Yeah.
the people didn't have nothing to do with it. But you always have help too. Like
Yeah.
guys are able to help you drag deer out and shit. In archery season,
Yeah.
we
You're on
play
your own.
hell. Oh, we play hell getting these deer out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
So,
Yep. For sure.
but hey, brother, we're running into to a long time here. I want you to let everybody know where they can find you, okay? And just tell them what you got going on again with Creekside.
Yeah. You can find us on Instagram. That's probably where we spend the most time at Creekside Wildlife. Creekside Wildlife also on YouTube. We're not doing a ton there right now, but we're in the process of putting out some fishing videos. Some rattlesnake stuff coming up here. So if you don't hear from us, then maybe that went south. I don't know. But we're working on some apparel. We're doing some hats and stuff and some t-shirts and hoodies. So we're going to be having that stuff available. Our website's going to be creeksidewildlife.com. It's under construction at the moment, but hopefully that'll be up and running here in the next couple months. And yeah, that's really about it. We're just trying to do whatever we can to get outside and enjoy the outdoors and see if we can't get some stuff on film in the process.
Yep, yep. And it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah,
It's a lot of work and there's a lot of behind-scenes stuff
yeah,
that nobody
yeah.
sees.
But one thing to end on, I had this conversation before. Like it, sometimes I sit back. Like for instance, my brother, he hunts maybe once or twice a year, but
Hmm.
he's not a hunter. I wouldn't say, and
Right.
he would agree too. But sometimes I sit there and I wonder, like, obviously the population of people that are non-hunters is way more than the hunting community, but it always makes me wonder, like, what do those people wake up in the morning and like get excited for? You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm
Right.
excited for 2 weeks from now to hunt rattlesnakes, or knowing that
Right.
waterfowl season's in 3 months. Like if you don't hunt or fish or anything, like what do people wake up and look forward to? Like football season? I mean, I'm not a
Yeah.
big sports guy, but like I guess that's probably what people look for. But it always made me laugh and made me think about like people that don't hunt or fish like to even if they do one activity, like they look forward to, I know some people that look forward to mushroom hunting every year, and that's all they look forward to. But or opening day of trout. But what do people look forward to if they don't do those kinds of things?
Yeah, I have thought of the same thing multiple times, and
I can't come up with anything.
No, well, and I've actually, talked to guys that retired from, working with me, and I'm like, well, so what do you do? And they're like, oh, nothing. And I'm like, dude, why aren't you guys hunting and fishing?
Yeah.
Like, you just, there's so much more you could be doing. Like, you got to get out there.
Yep.
But, hey, whatever.
Oh. Yeah, well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it, and
yeah, man, absolutely.
Love listening to your stuff, and
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. It's wonderful. So
yeah, I'm sure it won't be the last time we sit down. So
no, I know. Well, you're too close. You're too close to me now. So.
Yeah,
I got a hold.
Gave away my location.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for coming through, brother. Really, really appreciate the conversation. And for everybody listening, if you guys have any questions about this conversation, feel free to reach out to Mike over at Creekside, and maybe he can help you out with something. So, thanks for coming on, and we will talk to you soon. You have reached the end of another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. Guys, I appreciate all the love. You know how these all end. Please rate, comment, subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, any other platforms you guys are listening on. Really helps the show here in the long run. And I appreciate all the support and love. I'll keep bringing you the episodes. Thank you guys for tuning in.